Everybody, Andy here again. When I thought I'd make a response to one of my own videos, and if you can't make a response to one of your own videos, whose can you make a response to? The one in particular was hard work and laziness. Strangely enough, a couple of my videos recently, the vlogger rant video, which I'm also going to do a response to in some ways as well for the same reasons, and this particular one, the hard work and laziness videos, were ones that I wasn't necessarily as happy with as some of the other videos that I do, but isn't that always the way, that the ones you maybe don't think are your best videos are the ones that provoke the most comment, the most debate, etc. And that's what I want to address here really, because there's been such a great response, I think. I'd like to thank everybody for their comments and getting involved with it. So that seems to have sparked a little bit of a debate, and I'd like to continue that in some ways and go through some of the points, not necessarily answer the comments that people have made, because I agree with a lot of what people have said and totally understand them, but just to maybe just keep the debate going, just put in my own thoughts and out there for anybody else who hasn't really maybe read every single one of them. And the first one was about things that I thought of as well as I'm going along. Maybe I could have put in the video if I'd have thought it through a bit more, but that's the nature of vlogging. I just put it out there quickly. The laziness and inactivity, it can become a bit of a habit and it can become hard to get out of. And luckily, as I said in the original video, I've been lucky enough to have been employed since the year dot type of thing. I've never had those bursts of inactivity or periods of inactivity, and a lot of that isn't down to you, is it? It's out of your hands. You know, you become unemployed or whatever. You can't find a job, you know, especially in these sort of times. But I can imagine, sort of reading some of the comments, that if you do have that, or you take that time off voluntarily, it can be very hard to get back into it again. You get into a little bit of a pit, I suppose. You get used to not working. I can think even the sort of limited amount of time that I've had off from work, as I said before, it's sometimes hard to get back to work even after a couple of weeks and you're really down in the dumps. I can't imagine what that can be like if you're voluntarily off and then you're looking for work and you go back to it. So that's one point. As I said, I'm conscious of the fact that some people are off, but I've read a great example going on from what some of the other people have said. I think it was Kenrg and Cooksterz who was saying about laziness is like the mother of invention, or that type of thing, that having those periods of inactivity can actually be a great benefit. I think it's Cooksterz who said something along the lines of some of the best times in her life of when she's been lazy, if you want to put it that way, or out of work, out of the loop, just taking it easy. And I read an article since then actually in Wired magazine recently, and they were talking about the TED conference that had gone on in Oxford earlier this year. And a couple of the speakers there had actually gone along that type of line. And like Google, for example, Google, the company, they encourage their employees to have 20% of their working time away from work, or just sitting around thinking, using their thoughts, because that's what Ken and Cooksterz was saying, is one of the times when all these ideas come about, that when you sort of have those periods of inactivity, you have the time and maybe can have those thought processes, you can have the time to develop those thoughts, to think about things. And that's what Google have found, and some of their best ideas have come from that 20% of time that their own employees have had off, if you see what I mean. Okay, maybe within the working environment, but they're allowed to think. How many people out there can actually say that they've got that time in their employment to actually sit back and think about things that could improve your company, could improve your business, and could even improve you ultimately as well. And I don't expect there are many forward-thinking companies in that particular respect. So, and another thing that one of the other people in the Wired magazine said was about taking the gap years, even if you're employed. I think it's one guy was saying that he works for sort of 7 years, builds up money, I suppose, and then gets a little burnt out and thinks, right, I'm going to have a year off now, saves up time or whatever, or just, that's it, or changes jobs, changes roles or something, says, right, now I need a new challenge, I need to go away, rethink myself, recharge my batteries, wherever it might be, whether it be in his own country, and I think he's just gone to Indonesia for a year, should I say, to go and experience something else, and to give him new ideas and new challenges and new thoughts for the future for when he moves on. So that's a great point. I personally also think that some great ideas come from people who are the busiest. Sometimes because you are so busy, those things come up anyway. So yes, I agree with both sides, but I can see it from the other side. I say the busy people sometimes do come up with ideas as well, because their minds are constantly active, I suppose. But that's horses for courses, different people work in different ways. The PappyStu mentioned, he said he called himself a grasshopper type, and LisaAsterisk also made the point about how you can plan for the future, but you never know what that future is going to hold, do you? You never know what's around the corner. We can all plan to sort of retire at 60, and then we get to 60 or whatever age it is, and then we haven't got that health. I did mention that PappyStu unfortunately has a history in his family where people have died at a young age, sort of in their mid to late 50s or something, and he says because of that, he's what he calls a grasshopper type, which I think is a great word for it. That he flits about, jumps around, and is making the most of the time that he's got now for precisely that reason, because you never know what's around the corner. And that is a very good point. We never know. I did make that point briefly in the last video, that you're never quite sure what the future holds for you. And wouldn't it be a great pity to get to that retirement age and then find that you can't do what you wanted to do? You spent all that time and effort and worked hard, etc., and then you haven't got anything to show for it at the end. You haven't got the energy, you haven't got the health to actually go and do what you wanted to do. And what a great sort of personal tragedy that would be, I think. One of the things, work gets in the way of my life. That's what happens to me. I found that increasingly myself, is that because of my interests, so many interests, whether it be through YouTube, and I expect a lot of people on here are a similar type of thing. You spend time on here for the right reasons. Yes, we waste our time frivolously as well, watching silly videos and things like that, and we can get sidetracked into things on Facebook, and that try not to, but it can happen. We all have to accept that. But it's opening up a new avenue of life for us, and if you're like me, you're an inquisitive beast and like to read, like to watch things, like to just get ideas from all over the thing and try and get involved with other things outside of work, things that have come out of YouTube, things that have come out of other things that my sort of social networking or local networking have provided for me. So I think that's a thing that's happening to me, is that work is increasingly getting in the way of my life, more so in the last few years than it's ever done before. I think that's coming up, and I think that's partly because of this, because this is also inspiring me by the interaction, getting to know people, and the avenues that you're seeing how other people are doing things. Like having this discussion can probably open people's eyes and make them think in a different way, and maybe inspire them to go and do different things. And so we all get to that point. I think, as Lisa said, you've got to live life to the fullest and live life now, and I think that's a very good point. And if I had the bottle, if I had the guts, maybe I would jump off of that treadmill, because that's one of the points. It does take a lot of guts, I think, especially if you are in employment and you've been in employment for a long time. You're secure in most different ways, which is great in lots of ways, but it does hold you back in others, and is actually stifling yourself. Right, what else have we got here? Humans are not designed to work the way that we do now, and in some ways I would agree with that. I can't remember who actually made that point. Oh, Neferkit, that's right. And the sort of work and play balance is that in years gone by, we didn't have any choice with the way that we worked. We lived hand to mouth. I know some people still do that now to a degree, but we worked for our masters on the land or something. I know my sort of forebears hundreds of years ago were agricultural labourers, and they literally worked 6-7 days a week. If you read A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens, you probably can remember that bit where Bob Cratchit, I think, wanted Christmas Day off, and Scrooge was a bit unwilling to give it. Oh, I suppose you want Christmas Day off, but be here all the earlier the next day, type of thing. And that's what it was like then. People worked literally hours and hours, but now we've got a bit more leisure time. It's different. We look at life in a different type of way, and now we expect more leisure time, and I'm not sure that we are designed, because if you think back to the way that our forebears were, if anybody can actually remember some of them, people that I know from years gone by, or stories that I've heard about people who used to work really hard because industries in the past used to be more physical, didn't they? They're still there now, some of them, but a lot of things have changed. Labour isn't quite so physical generally as what it used to be. People used to retire because they needed to, because they needed a rest. People used to retire later, and that was basically it. They were winding down towards the inevitable death, I think, and that's one of the only certainties we got in life is death and taxes, as Mark Twain said. And that's what a lot of people did. They retired and basically they died. They wasted away. They were worn out. I hate to think that that's what it's like now. So maybe that's the point that Neferkit's making there. And so we're not really designed to work in the way that we used to, and now we have got that opportunity, well, at least some of us. Let's make the most of it. Let's get that work and play balance right, and appreciate it, exploit it as well, and use it for our own ends. It's nothing worse than having leisure time and then not using it for leisure, if you know what I mean. If you just sit there in a chair and waste your time away in front of the TV or whatever it might be. It's all right watching the TV if it's something that's worthwhile. I'm not preaching here, but that's the way I look at it. Some people just sit there and it's just background. It's just nothing. They're not interested, they're just watching it. Why don't you do like I've done here, come out into the woods and enjoy yourself, and come out and vlog and interact with you people, but do it in the fresh air and that as well. Right, on to the next bit. Pippilly and LeSaMilano, they're sort of two travellers, and they were talking about travel and how it becomes a bug. And there's something that Kurt wrote actually, and if I can find it, it doesn't matter how much I've tried, I usually wind up seeing something else along the way that I want to see, try and sample. It never ends, and that's very true, and that's how I found with travelling. And I know that Pippilly and LeSaMilano are like that as well, and I know other people are obviously, is that once you start travelling, I was sort of getting quite passionate about it, it's something that I am passionate about, is once you get into it, you get that bug and you can't stop. Even if it's a local thing, it doesn't have to be intercontinental, it doesn't have to, you know, sort of zoom around the world to actually see something different, to experience something different. I know that Americans sometimes have been criticised for not getting out of their country, so that they don't understand maybe what other cultures and that are like, and that's a valid criticism to a way, but having been there a few times, I know what it's like. It's a very varied country, and even in our country here, you can experience a lot. Some people, why do I need to go abroad when I've got everything here? I can totally see that, but I do think that people, it's good for other people to get some other ideas, some other thoughts, some experience, some other different cultures. Yes, you can do it through the medium of social networking and YouTube. That's one of the great things about it, but there's nothing like doing it firsthand, and I've been lucky enough to do a little bit of it, and I think it changed me, and I think it changes most people if they go and experience it. Whether it changes them for the better or for the worse is a different matter. They might get and think, oh God, I'm never going to do this again, never going to come to a third world country again. At least you've given it a go, at least you tried it and formed your own opinions. That's a good thing for that. So that's what I intend, that's what I'd like to do, and I know what Pippilly said. I think she sort of saves up money and then sort of goes away for 6 months to Australia or something like that. That's a great way of being, of living, I think, and I'm sure your life memories will probably be a lot better than other people for that reason. But we're each different, aren't we? And I think that's just about most of what I've got to say. Once the travel bug, once you've started, a point that John Reagan made, I actually made a comment to him, something along the lines of, what would you do? Would you do anything any differently if you were given the choice? And that's something that I will actually come to in another video. I'm thinking about making a video purely along that sort of point. I sort of challenged him with that, and he said, oh, I reckon you should make a vlog about that. But another little story that I will relay actually, because of a video that I saw the other day, and I can't remember who it was by, about talking to your children along these sort of lines. Strangely enough, we were having a conversation at the dinner table the other day. Literally, I think it was the day that I put the original hard work and laziness video up, and the conversation got on to that type of topic. It was quite, and I said, well, amazingly enough, I just put a video up about this particular topic, and my son was talking about going to America. And we were just talking, and I was relaying my experiences of travelling and my points of view. But we sat there for quite a long time with my daughter. The four of us sat around the table having a very sensible discussion, very open discussion about travel, about opportunities, about what you could do with your life and how you should view your life. Because I think he was quite surprised that my attitude was, if you want to go to America for 6 months, save up, go and do it. Don't expect me to stop you. I would encourage you, and in fact I'd probably want to be going with you as well, and I'd be very jealous. But you've got the opportunity to do it, so why not doing it? As I say, with any of these type of things, whether it be travel, anything in life, the only person or anything stopping you is yourself. We can all usually get the money together, we can usually find the time. If you want to do something desperately enough, you will find a way and a means of doing it. So I think that planted a seed, because you can always put barriers up to things. It's easier to say no than to say yes type of thing. And I think he was a bit wary of doing it, because of what we might think, and, you know, we support him or something. But by talking about it, he's now gone off and done some research, and he's actually looked into it. Because do you think about it nowadays, what we've got here with the internet, the greatest research tool that there's ever been, apart from some libraries maybe in the past, but we've got so much here now that we can find at the click of a mouse, at the click of a button. It's there for us to find out. So much information. You can book holidays and do research. It's amazing. I've done it myself, and I know he's gone and done that because of our conversation, because of our encouragement, and he's talking about things now, about what he can do, and he's planning types of things. And my daughter's the same, although she's a bit younger. So lots of things to take, all along the same sort of topic. I know this has been a bit of a long video, but I thought it was good to keep this topic going. So Steve, 21st Century Cat, who left a message for me the other day on one of the videos, and he said what he quite often does with my long videos is he gets in from work and puts one of my videos on instead of watching the TV while he eats his dinner. I think that's great. That's a wonderful compliment, and I think this video is probably exactly the right type of length for that. So there you go. Keep the comments coming, keep the debate going, see what you think. If you've got any stories to tell and you haven't chipped in about your particular ideas, answer some of the things that I've said here. As I said before, thanks for your great comments, thanks for all the feedback, and long may that continue. As I said, I will come round to doing that response to the blogger rant video as well. Anyway, thanks for your time. I'm going to enjoy the nice scenery around here. I shall speak to you again shortly. Goodbye.